Hello and welcome to EB5 Investment Reports Dialogue Series. I'm Aimee Rios. Today's guest is immigration attorney Mark Ivener of Ivener and Fullmer, an international business immigration law firm with a specialty in EB5. Today, Mark will be discussing the imperative questions investors should be asking in order to perform due diligence as it pertains to immigration, regional centers, and their projects. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Good to be here, Aimee.
Can you give us a little background on your firm and how you got involved in EB5?
Well, yes. I started the law started in the early 90s. And at that time, very few people, immigration lawyers, even knew about EB5. It happened that in the mid-90s, I had a couple of high net worth clients who were looking for a way to get a green card and really didn't qualify for any other type of category. And so I did I had known about the program, and I connected with a regional center that was in business at that time, and my clients decided to invest, and that was the beginning. Now, at that time, there were companies that were, let's say, a short side of being ethical. And so the program was halted for a number of years from about 1998 to 2002 approximately. And there were a number of people who did lose money. Fortunately, I had one client who had invested in one of those regional centers, and thank goodness they got their money back.
How have some of the recent lawsuits affected the program overall, especially in terms of those investors perhaps and due diligence?
Well, as I'm sure you probably know, the major issue has been the hotel project in Chicago, which turned out to be not really a hotel project in Chicago because the developer and the owner of the regional center actually, according to the court documents, and I have to say it that way, allegedly falsified the hotel letter and also falsified the foreign government buyout for the investors. So this is something where a regional center really started from the beginning in fooling immigration to approve the regional center so they have egg on their face. And then it wasn't until the SEC got involved where there started to be some complaints, and they did a thorough investigation and made these determinations. So thank goodness in this case, people, at least so far, have gotten their $500,000 back. I know that the lawsuit is still going on, and I haven't heard the latest yet whether all the investors have received their administrative fee back, which I think was roughly around $30,000. But this has really caused havoc in China because the whole marketplace now in China, where 70–80% of investors come from, has been clouded. Now people are concerned. They're not only concerned about hotel projects, they're concerned about any sort of regional center investment because they realize that what they thought they could trust before, they see they can't trust now.
What was maybe the most important thing that investors overlooked in doing their due diligence with this project, or did they do due diligence at all, in your opinion?
Well, here's really the answer. Generally speaking, a very small percentage, in my experience, and in talking to many immigration lawyers and agents, is that investors do not do much of a due diligence at all. They trust the agent, first of all. So really the agent or broker reputation is on the line. And if something happens, then it's their problem because they live in China. They know where to go back to. All agents in China are licensed by the government. So there would be a big fallout. So that's why agents, at least the good ones, are doing very detailed due diligence. How detailed, I can't tell you, but it's certainly much more after Chicago than it was before.
Now, what are some things that investors can do? What are the questions, let's get into that, that investors need to ask to do their own due diligence when they're starting out in their EB5 venture?
So one thing you want to know about is how long has the company been in business? Have they any completed projects? What are the returns on past investments? When is the return paid? Is it paid monthly, weekly? Monthly, quarterly, yearly, at the end of the whole cycle? Are they able to get a refund if the I-526, which is the initial petition, is denied, or if the visa is denied? In Guangzhou for Chinese, if they happen to be students here, at immigration here. And what is their refund? Does the regional center have the right to appeal before they give a refund? So there are a lot of different questions, and what I tell clients relating to that specific point is that you really have to look at and compare the provisions relating to client investor denial, it's called. And there's actually a section in almost all subscription agreements on that point. And then you'll be able to compare A, B, and C as to how long you have to wait if that worst thing should happen. A few others are has the regional center lost money on projects before? Does the regional center have any U.S. investors? Are they all EB-5 investors?
Should investors be concerned about projects that are 100% EB-5 financed?
Well, yes, if they're, what they should do is, unless their attorney can explain to them why the economic methodology applies under the current rules, then they should question that, and they should probably also question the attorney they've chosen.
Now, Mark, can you tell us what professional consultation should investors seek? What kind of team do they need to put together?
Number one, tax attorney, or someone who's going to advise them on the tax consequences of becoming a permanent resident. And that's not only income, but it's estate and gift tax as well. Number two is some sort of financial analyst advisor relating to their investment.
Now, how concerned do you find our investors about getting a return on their money? Or are they more concerned about the green card? Because we've heard some reports of people saying, well, our client or some of our investors just want their green card. They're not that concerned about the money. Do you find that?
Well, there are two things related to money. Investors are not that concerned with what the return is. They all want the $500,000 back.
Okay.
I haven't run across anybody who says, well, I'm willing to spend $550,000 for a green card. I don't care if I never get that money back as long as I get my green card. If that's 1 out of 10,000.
Whose responsibility is it to inform investors about regional centers' backgrounds? Who does the due diligence on the regional centers, especially if the investors are not sophisticated? They might be the children of Chinese parents who are going to school here. So who does that?
Yeah. Well, it needs to be, in the example of the Chinese investors, it is generally the agent or the broker who's doing it on behalf of their reputation, selling a project. And I do know that a lot of them, the good ones that I know, do very intense and deep due diligence.
Now, do you believe that the investors should know about the fees that are being paid to the agents? And if so, if they know about these fees, does it kind of give them a little bit of security knowing, okay, I'm paying this agent this much, so they should be doing their due diligence, and kind of giving them a false sense of security, perhaps?
Up until now, most people don't know what the agents get out of the administrative and acquisition fee. It's a new proposal, and I'm not quite sure whether it's in effect yet, I don't think so, that it needs to be more transparent, or it needs to be transparent. I think it would be a great idea, and I've heard both arguments relating to investors. Oh, you mean they're getting that much, and they do practically nothing? To what you said, I think the more sophisticated investor would think the way you're saying it, and that is, well, they may, if they're getting that much, they're really looking out for me. I don't know that that will be the ultimate result. It'll be very interesting to see what happens once that is final, assuming it will be, that even in China, because it's certainly, from any securities attorney I've talked to, okay to pay finder's fees outside the U.S., where it isn't in the U.S. unless you're a broker-dealer.
One more question, Mark.
Sure.
What are your predictions for the coming year, the year of the horse, 2014?
Well, the one thing everybody is concerned about is the backlog for China, because it's been predicted by the person at the State Department who's in charge of all visa numbers and in all visa categories, that the backlog for China, meaning reaching the 10,000 mark for visas, which is the regulation that no more than 10,000 EB-5 green cards can be given in one fiscal year, and the government fiscal year, as you I'm sure know, is October 1 to September 30th. So we didn't have any problem reaching when we hit this year, but starting in October 1 of a few months ago, going to September 30th, it is projected, and again, we don't know for sure, that probably the last 3 months the backlog will hit, which will affect China primarily.
Thank you so much for joining us
My
today,
pleasure.
Mark.
Good.
Due diligence may be the single most important element of any EB-5 project, and it is important for investors to know what questions to ask so that they can make informed decisions about their EB-5 venture. We hope you have found today's dialogue useful. I'm Aimee Rios, and I want to thank you for watching this edition of EB-5 Investment Report.